Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today, I wanted to get on and talk about your mental health and your sexual health and how they're so tied together. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around just how much our mental, physical, spiritual, and sexual health are interconnected, right? So a lot of times, because people specialize in different areas and study different parts of the body or different parts of the psyche or whatever, just breaking down the different parts of being human into more sizable chunks for understanding, we forget the fact that we're a whole human being and that it all either works together or it doesn't work together, right? So if something's off, if something's out of balance within us, in our physical, mental, spiritual, or sexual health, it's going to affect other areas of our health. So the ways in which our mental health play a part in affecting our sex drive or our libido is, there's a number of different ways that it can show up, right? So it's often really, really hard to feel embodied and connected to that part of yourself and to really enjoy the experiences if you're so anxious that you're dissociating, if you feel unsafe a lot of times, if your nervous system is constantly in that fight or flight response, right? It's going to be really hard to engage in fully in that way. So not to say that you can't go through the motions and have some physical pleasure from it. It's just that maybe there's a certain part of you that's cut off from fully experiencing the experience that you're having, right? So whether that's solo or with a partner, right? And that can, that shows up in lots of different ways. So when we think about our mental health, we have to consider that it's affecting all areas of our lives, right? Because, there's a deep connection, and I've talked about this before, the different heart centers are not, it's not just the heart, it's the mind heart, the heart, and then the gut heart. It's all connected, right? Because we're, a human being that's made up of all of these different aspects. And so we can't just look at one part of a person's life and be like, okay, well, we can just tweak that and then everything else will be fine, without recognizing if that's actually the thing that needs tweaking or if there's some other thing, right? So getting to that root cause is really, really important, because that's where you're going to find the answer to what do I really need to change in order for me to have the life that I want, right? So, for instance, I've had clients come to me because they have anxiety and they really struggle with managing stress in their life, because that anxiety makes them feel on edge all the time. And so we go into the session with an intention of, what would it look like? What will your life look like if you didn't have this anxiety? Like, what would change about your life? What would be different? What needs to be different is the answer that they'll come to in order to get that life, right? And I can't tell them what that is. That's inside of them. But what's my job is to help sort of unravel all of the stuff that's sort of in the way to them really seeing what's holding them back. So for someone who comes to me with this anxiety, they might not even know that it's affecting their sexual health. So they often will come and they're saying, well, because I'm feeling anxious all the time, I'm not enjoying my relationships with other people. I'm not able to relax. I feel, constantly on edge. I take things that people say really personally, that sort of thing. That's come up in a session before. And so, they come into it thinking, I just want to sort of learn how to manage this or understand it in a way that allows me to be more open in my relationships. And what we have sometimes discovered, not always, but sometimes we discover that it's tied to so many other things. And so, well, they come with that intention, and we form that as our kind of our goal, or I like to use intention. It's a little bit, it's a different distinction. And the intention through our work is for them to feel like they have more control, where they feel like they have some clarity, where they feel like they can have the kind of relationships going forward that they want to have. And then they've come back to me, sometimes months later, and said, what, I didn't realize how much my anxiety was holding me back from really enjoying sex with my partner, or really enjoying. I had other people who aren't in relationships, but they're like, but I actually enjoy solo sex now, whereas before I couldn't really enjoy it fully, right? So those are just sort of some of the byproducts. And then I've had other women who've come to me, and their issue is, and their intention to fix is that they've lost their libido. They are struggling to feel connected to themselves, to their body. They're struggling to stay embodied during, acts with their partner or even with themselves. So, there's different ways that this has come up, and that's why I talk so much about it, because it's so connected to every part of us, right? And so whether it's the main thing that's really, drawing you to work with someone, or whether it's the byproduct of having worked with someone, that we open that up to, fulfilling and satisfying and nurturing and nourishing kind of situations for you, because it is important to your overall health. And I've talked about this before, and I'll keep saying it. It is important for your overall health and well-being to keep that part of yourself engaged, alive, nourished, and invigorated, right? So, regardless of what you're going through, if you feel like it's impacting your sexual health, or maybe you hadn't really made that connection before, but there's something else going on for you, and you're realizing through me talking about this that, oh yeah, my mental health could be the reason why I feel so, because it's really hard to feel, sexually excited and ready to go if you're feeling anxious, or if you're feeling, overwhelming loneliness and sadness, and if you're in those states, it's really hard to shift into that, other state of being where you can be sexually vulnerable and open, right? So it has this knock-on effect. And then another thing to consider when it comes to your mental health and your sexual health is that it's possible that the things that you're utilizing to help with the mental health piece are actually causing, as a side effect, your low libido. So you want to make sure that you check the labels of any prescription that you're taking, and looking for those side effects that can happen, and maybe if there's an alternative brand that doesn't have that same sort of effect, maybe you can get the same benefits for your mental health without having to give up that part of your sexual health, right? So it could just be a matter of med change, or it could be that maybe for a while you're working on your mental health, and maybe your sexual health does take a little bit of a back seat, and that's quite all right too, right? So just, I talk about these things so that maybe you make those connections. Not that you have to be doing, X, Y, and Z all the time, but, understanding the power and the healing of a great orgasm, whether it's a solo one or with a partner, to your physical and mental and emotional health is really important, right? So I've talked before about how it releases the feel-good hormones in your body. So, if you're lacking in those things or you're low, it might help to sort of naturally boost them, right? Again, though, you're going to want to feel like you're safe. You're going to want to feel like you're connected to your body in order to really fully enjoy those moments, right? So getting there might be the work that you need to be doing right now. And so if I can help with any of that, just please reach out, right? I get that sometimes we need to, there's been times when I focused on my physical health and, other things took a little bit of a back seat because there was something that I really needed to attend to and get sort of get that understanding of what my body needed and what was the right balance for me at that time. And so maybe my mental health or my sexual health or spiritual health weren't as well attended. But ideally, in a perfect world, and I truly mean this, in a perfect world, because we're living in a world that is a constant bombardment of stress and anxiety. So in the perfect world, we would have the time and the energy to attend to all of these things, all of these parts of ourselves that are important. And, it's important to find ways to make time for these things in your life where you can. And so if trying to be in the mood all the time is too stressful and you're in a partnership relationship, maybe having a scheduled time together where the expectation is that would be something that would happen, like some intimacy would happen, can help sort of alleviate some of the stress or anxiety that can build up if there's not that sort of scheduled time, right? So like there's different ways that you can work within your like with the amount of spoons that you have, right? Maybe you don't have the spoons to give that kind of energy to your partner. Maybe you're just going to concentrate on yourself for now, and maybe that's the journey that you need to be doing at this time in your life. And so being able to do that with some resources and help can really go a long way. So please feel free to reach out. If anything that I've talked about today or in my previous videos has you kind of questioning things, if you have any questions, you can private message me or you can put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. And if I feel like it's something that it would be better off talking privately, I'll reach out to you privately, or I'll message if I think that my answer could be beneficial to other people who might have that same question. So, if you want to be private message me. If you're okay with, asking a question publicly and me answering publicly, I may or may not answer publicly, depending on what my answer is going to be, but I will answer. Okay? So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you. Namaste.